Okay, everybody stand up for a second. Do a little bit of this. Shake out the arms a little bit. And give me your best. Let me hear your prime cohort call. 3, 2, 1.
It's Ball!
I don't know, but there was like a Hulk thing that kind of came through the best. All right, one more time. 3, 2, 1.
It's Ball!
Nice. All right, take your seats. All right, so today, I don't know if you guys were told what the talk is about, but you are going to become the Scrum Master of your own life. I know that here at Prime Academy, you guys learn a little bit of Scrum, a little bit of Agile. Raise your hand if you know what Agile is. Come on, you guys, it's like the elbow raise. I want armpit raises, okay? Raise your hand if you are familiar with Agile. How about Scrum? Keep your hand raised. Okay, so we got about a third of the room. So today you're going to learn, I'm going to go in a little bit deeper of what that is for those of you that don't know, and I'm going to talk to you about how you can become that in your own life. A real quick summary of what you'll learn: how I scratch my own itch to reach my goals faster, how you can get $530 worth of stuff for $50, what Scrum, Kanban, and other agile methodologies are, and how to apply Wolf of Wall Street goals and setting techniques to achieve these goals. My name is Dick Polipnick. I'm actually an alumni of this school. I went here about a year ago, and I had a company called Online Growth Systems that hit a plateau in 2017. And I was looking for the next thing that we could go into for services, and that was obviously software. I'm the kind of CEO that I like to understand the products and the services that we're delivering before I hire somebody, before I start to bid all those projects. So I actually put the business on hold for 4 months, went to Prime, and I riled it back up, and now we doubled our sales since I went to Prime. So it's made a huge impact on my life and my business. So what we primarily do is we provide services for like online marketing, we do a lot of video production, and now we're doing more and more website and software development. I'm also the host of a community called Online Growth Systems with the same name, and we create content like we're filming today, so you can watch this on our various channels. So 80%, you can see down here, we're gonna do an intro, the problem, and this is gonna tell you where we're at in the talk. So right now, what's the problem? How many of you made a New Year's resolution? Raise your hand. We have one person in the room who made it. 2 people. Okay, this is great. So today you're all going to make your New Year's resolutions, okay? If you had 80% of the Americans who do make New Year's resolutions, stop pursuing those New Year's resolutions by February 1st. It takes them 1 month, and they're no longer pursuing those resolutions. So who's the master at achieving more in a year? Right, achieving more in a lifetime. I asked you to write down your most ambitious goals for 2020 so we can set those goals, set those New Year's resolutions so you can achieve more. Elon Musk is known as a god in the productivity world, right? He started multiple companies, SpaceX. You know, one of those lofty goals that he's trying to achieve is colonizing Mars, right? He was an early investor in Tesla, electric vehicles, right? Solar City made solar panels popular on the East Coast, right? PayPal, he was a co-founder of one of the companies that merged into PayPal. So now we're going to talk about, how many of you have seen The Wolf of Wall Street, the movie, or heard of it, read the book maybe? Okay, most of you. Now, Jordan Belfort is a real person, which that movie is based off of, and his character is questionable, but his productivity methods are tried and true. You can take good things from bad people, right? And since then he's cleaned up, but what we're going to focus on is what he did right, and that's achieving a lot in a short amount of time. And one thing that he did to teach every person that he onboarded into his company was how to set their goals and how to achieve them faster. He is known, mathematically you can prove that he made more millionaires in the shortest amount of time on Wall Street than any other entrepreneur. So he'd bring somebody on and it would take them a matter of months to achieve their first $1 million. So I'm going to teach you that same method. So you can see here, whenever you see a sticky note, it's probably going to be involved with your sticky notes. So the first of 6 things that the Wolf of Wall Street uses to set goals is to set a reward. Now I want you, what does a reward mean? That is the carrot at the end of the stick that you're chasing. Sometimes that's the goal itself, but sometimes you have to give yourself more motivation than that. If you say, I want to get in shape, right? I want to get a job for twice the amount that I was being paid before I went to school here. Right? That salary might be a great objective, right? But you want to set yourself a reward. How are you going to treat yourself? Once I get that new job, I'm going to go out and I'm going to buy my cohort mates a drink because I'm making a shit ton of money, right? So I want you to all take your Post-it notes, and I want you to set that reward for yourself. Is it going to be going out to eat? Is it going to be, if it's a super lofty goal that you should have wrote, it could be something like, one of my goals a couple years ago is I wanted to help my grandmother financially afford senior care, right? That was one thing that it was more than just myself, right? So what's a reward for yourself? Okay, number 2, measure. Who here has heard the expression what gets measured gets managed? Raise your hand. Okay. So Peter Drucker is known as one of the most productivity experts who's ever lived. And that's one of his most famous quotes is what gets measured gets managed. Because if you're not tracking your progress, you'll never realize if you're ahead of the game, behind the game, or how you are at achieving those goals, that timeline, right? So this has to be a measurable goal, okay? It can't just say, I want to get in shape. You got to be more specific. How can you measure that in a sense of units, in a sense of value? I want to lose X amount of pounds. I want to be able to lift X amount of pounds, right? Another example, I want to get a really great job. Well, how can you measure that? I want to get a really great job that pays $70,000 a year as a junior software developer, right? So write down on your sticky note a unit of value, whether that's a number or some kind of quantity or quality that you can measure, and then add the unit of measurement that you're measuring. If you're trying to run I want to run a mile. Well, a 6-minute mile, a 5-minute mile, right? So take the time to write that. Number 3, timeline. So if this is a New Year's resolution, right, this is something that you're maybe pursuing in the next 12 months. So you're going to say by December 31st of 2020, I want to make sure that I achieve this goal. If it's a goal that's more short-term, I want to get a really great job after prime, right after you go to school here. You have to set a date for that. Is it going to be February 29th or whatever the last day of February is? Is it going to be March 1st? April 1st? Right? So write down the timeline that you're going to set for yourself to achieve this goal. If you don't have if you don't have the end in mind, you're going to be spinning your wheels like a hamster running in a cage, right? You have to have a goal. Instead of just that circle running around and around, you want to have a measurable timeline or a finish line that you know that you're going to cross. And you're creating that finish line for yourself. So add a deadline, and then I want you to add your milestones. How can you break this goal apart? Reverse it. You guys are all engineers here. How can you reverse engineer your goal into small, achievable chunks? One of my favorite sayings growing up, my mom always said, because I had a hard time at school, was, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, which is a really weird saying. So how can you divide this into, if you have a year goal, how do you make that a monthly goal? Then I want you to do it again. How can you take that monthly goal and make it a weekly goal? Then I want you to do it again. How can you take that weekly goal and make it into a daily thing that you can do that'll help you achieve your goal? Timeline. Number 4 of 6, groundwork. What do you have to do for yourself to set yourself up for success? If one thing you said is, I want to get smarter, you might change it to, I want to increase my IQ by 10 points. Okay, how do you do timeline? I want to increase my IQ by 10 points within 6 months, right? By this date, by July 1st. Okay, groundwork, how do I achieve that? That daily thing, right? Kind of the reverse engineering, what we talked about. Write down what you need to hit this goal. If it's making more money, if it's getting that really great job, this is where you talk about, I need to post on LinkedIn 3 times a week. What do you need to do? Set yourself up for success. And you think, okay, if I don't have LinkedIn downloaded yet, I have to download it, right? What's the groundwork that you need? If you want to read more books, you can say, I want to read a book a month. Well, maybe one thing you can do for groundwork is buy the 12 books you're going to read this year. And they're sitting on the shelf. That way that you're eliminating one last piece of friction, one less obstacle that you have to overcome when you're achieving this goal. So write down a couple of ideas, brainstorm with your table here. We're gonna take 1 minute and think of some groundwork that you can set up for yourself. So we're gonna take 1 minute here, tell everybody what your goal is, and we're gonna brainstorm. Ready, go. All right, everybody stand up again. Let's do the jumping again, ready? All right, give me your Prime Academy cohort call in 3, 2, 1. Awesome. All right, let's sit back down. Number 5 is accountability. This is something that I've been practicing these goal setting techniques for, I think this is 2020 is my 5th year doing this methodology. And every year I try to apply Scrum and improve that process, right? So one thing that I added 2 years ago was accountability. My brother Noah and I meet up for 2 days in a row. We literally carve out 2 days a year in December where we commit ourselves to doing what you're doing right now for 2 days straight. And this is the first year here in 2020 where we did just do it for me. He's getting to the point where he's doing it for him too. So he is my accountability partner. He sends me a text maybe once every 2 weeks and says, hey, how's your goal going? Hey, I know that you had some friction and obstacle that was unforeseen for one of your goals. You know, what can I do to help? You know what I mean? The one thing that we started doing this year is, since now we both have these goals, is we're having monthly Zoom meetings. So we have it scheduled that repeats on a Sunday once a month. And we jump on that Zoom call for 30 minutes and just check in, right? So write down 2 names of people in your life that you're close enough to that you can be super intimate with, share what your goals are, and they could probably do the same vice versa. So write down, just brainstorm 2 names of people. Could be your significant other, could be a sibling, could be a really good friend, could be a coworker, could be a cohort mate. So just brainstorm 2 names of people that you think you could be your accountability partner. And finally, the last 6 out of 6 is give. When you make goals externally motivated so they impact more people than just yourself, then there's a lot more at stake, right? So one thing you do to make sure that you hit these goals is you write down right now what you're going to give back. If you say, I want to double my salary from the $30K I was making before Prime to the $60K afterwards, if I do that, I'm going to take $10,000 and I'm going to give it to a charity, right? You can say, I'm going to volunteer for a day. I'm going to bring a box of donuts to Prime Academy, right? And to the staff and all the cohorts, and just say, hey, thanks for being a great community and helping me achieve this goal. What are you going to do to give back when you achieve this goal? It doesn't have to be financial. It could be something time-wise. It could be something like, let's say that you're doing like the workout thing. You can go to the gym and help clean it for a day. I don't know if your gym's like mine, but it can get pretty gross. Okay, so now we're done with the Wolf of Wall Street goals. Now I'm going to talk about agile. Remind me again, raise your hand really high. Who's familiar with agile? Okay, half of you. All right. So agile is the opposite of waterfall. So waterfall in software development and in a lot of different practices, you say, okay, what do we need to build this software? And then you jump into design. Okay, what's it going to look like? Implementation. Okay, let's build it. Verification. Let's send it to a customer when it's all done. This maybe would be like a 6-month process, right? You plan it, build it, send it. Hey, what do you think of this project we built? The problem with this is that final product that you send to the customer, to the client, to your employer, they'll say, what is this? This isn't what I asked for. This is solving a problem that we don't have, that we don't need solved. So what you do in software, in agile principles, is you continually repeat that whole process in a short amount of time as quickly as possible, okay? So agile can encompass Scrum, Kanban, And there's like probably 100 different methodologies that all fall under the umbrella of agile, okay? Agile software development or agile workflow. So you can see here, they did an MVP. How many knows what an MVP is? Raise your hand. MVP stands for minimum viable product, or a prototype, right? The earliest prototype that you can create that you can send to a customer or to your boss or to a potential user, a beta tester, right? And then you take that and you say, hey, how could this be better? And then you take that feedback and you continue to improve it and improve it and improve it until you get the final result, which is actually what people are asking for, which is solving a real problem. And you probably are going to save money, you're going to save time, and it's going to be a lot more fun doing it, right? So Kanban actually is one of the agile methodologies, and it was actually coined by Toyota. Now Toyota is, the car manufacturer in Japan, and they started using visual, big, huge boards to keep track of the production process of how many cars were in production and what was slowing down. And that way of visually tracking their progress helped them figure out, why are we slowing down? What is this department doing that they're constantly waiting for people? They're always super productive. And doing that visual representation helped them out. Kanban is actually Japanese for billboard or sign, right? So one thing in software, how many of you are familiar with Trello? I'm sure you use it here at school, right? Awesome. So Trello, you're using Kanban when you use Trello. Trello is a digital Kanban tool. So some of the columns you might look at is backlog, right? What are the ideas? What are the features? Some of the user requests that we've had. To-dos, this is your sprint, right? The 2-week sprint that you're gonna do. What are we gonna do here the next 2 weeks to build the next iteration of that product that we saw here, right? These are probably 2-week sprints, right? And then in progress, what are we working on right now? And then complete, right? And then as this workflow works is you start taking things from the backlog, you add them to the to-dos, and everything slowly moves to the right until you have less on the backlog and more in the complete, and that's how you get projects done, right? Okay, we're gonna take 2 examples from you guys, and so I'm gonna take some volunteers, just raise your hand if you're cool with it, and we're gonna read out your goal, what you've learned so far, and we're gonna, as a group, we're gonna brainstorm how we can make that even better, learning what we've learned so far already. Do we have any volunteers? I'm gonna call somebody out if I don't get a volunteer. Blue shirt. You. I heard you laugh, so. What's your goal?
Be employed in tech.
Okay. Be employed in tech. What did you add for timeline?
In 4 months.
In 4 months. What did you do for measure?
1 junior dev job.
Okay. With ketchup?
What's that?
With ketchup?
Yes.
Okay. What did you do for give back?
Be a mentor, help other people.
That's a great idea, right? Prime, you guys have a built-in mentor program. Once you get hired, now you're eligible to be a mentor. That's a great example. What did you do for accountability? Did you name a friend, sibling, spouse?
Yeah, and we get other friends.
Okay.
Or-
Awesome. Okay, what's your name?
I'm Harrison.
Harrison, what could Harrison do to improve what he just talked about, that goal? How could he improve it? Any ideas?
Network more?
Network more? So one thing that you're touching on that I didn't ask you is that,
Groundwork.
yes, groundwork, thank you. So what do you have to do to prepare yourself to get that job? Right? Let's think of more groundwork. Let's go with 2 more groundwork ideas that he could do. Yeah.
Number of applications submitted.
Number of applications submitted. How could you apply timeline to that?
So, for example, I had a very similar goal, and I said, 10 applications a week or two a day.
That's great. 2 a day. So that's something you can do is lay the groundwork, right? Well, one more idea. Yeah.
Move and pay off my car.
That's a great one. Okay. So move and pay off your car. Where are you going to move to?
Denver.
Okay. When do you want to move by?
March 31st.
And who's going to help keep you accountable for that?
My parents and my buddy.
Nice. And pay off your car. How much do you have left on your car?
Roughly 14, 15.
Okay. And then what's the timeline that you're going to have that paid off by?
The 31st of December.
I like that. And who's going to keep you accountable for that?
Same people.
Okay, that's good. I have the same human being for all mine, right? What are some ideas that we could use to improve his 2 goals?
Double my car payments every month.
You good? One thing I would do is I would create that, so the groundwork again, that's super important, right? Because it's one thing to say, this is my goal. How are you going to achieve that goal, right? So one thing you could say is, how much more cash flow a month do I need to pay that off? You know, you take that 14,000 divided by 12 months or 11 months at this point, right? So okay, I need to make this payment every month. Where's that income going to come from? Maybe you need to get the job sooner, right? Maybe you need to pick up side projects, right? So you need to figure out where am I going to get that cash flow, and then make that a goal too, and then groundwork that as well. Okay. Now we're going to do a little workshop. So you don't need to build teams. You're just going to take your table mates, and we've got a couple of whiteboards in here, 3 whiteboards. There's 2 sides of the whiteboard, so I want a team on each side of the whiteboard. Okay. And what you're going to do is you're going to do what Scrum calls a ceremony, or what a lot of other agile principles call a daily stand-up. All right. I'm sure that you guys do that for your group and solo projects, right? Great. So if you're in a older cohort, you might have to teach some of the people at your table who are in a newer cohort what that means. So you're going to review your sticky notes as a group that you wrote when you came in. You're going to discuss how you can improve it, like we just did as a group, and how you can apply the Wolf of Wall Street goal setting techniques, agile principles, and what we've talked about so far. Okay, we're going to take 10 minutes, 10, maybe 15 minutes. We're going to do that. I'm going to go around and see how you guys are all doing. In case you have questions, you can pull me aside. And at the end, we're going to have each table discuss what we learned. Okay, so pick at the end when I give you a signal, I want you to pick one person from your table to be your speaker, your representative. We're all going to go around. We're going to share one really cool example or something that we learned from your group. Okay, and then we're going to come back and we're going to finish the rest of the presentation. Okay, awesome. Everybody stand up real quick. Jump up and down. You know the drill. 3, 2, 1.
Stripe it.
Nice. Extract it or whatever that is. That sounded like that one won that time. All right, divide into teams. Let's wrap.
That's good.
All right. If you're your elected person to talk about what you learned, come stand up here. Yeah, let's give him a round of applause. I like that. And motivation. Okay, you can come over here a little more so everybody can see you. Yeah, perfect. All right, we're just going to go down the line and talk about something that you learned, and if there was a favorite example of one of the goals that, not somebody who necessarily came already to the whiteboard and had it all figured out, but maybe somebody who, like before and after, like they came with this kind of a goal, and as a group we collectively talked about, and we turned it into this, right? That's obviously better, but talk about what you learned and what you can do.
Hi, I'm Peter from Visionaire. And I think one thing I learned was to check in often with where you are with your goals. I think if you start here and expect to get up there, it can be daunting because you're like, that's really, really far. But if you can check in every couple of steps and say, all right, I got up 6 and I went back 1, but that's okay because I'm still up 5 total, and then we'll keep going. So that's a good way to look at it, is like increments like that. So, yeah.
Hey everybody, I'm Chad from Trippit.
Stripe it.
Thank you. I think it was important to do this as a group because you get different perspective. You could have a goal and have in your head, like, this is the groundwork I need to do, but it might not incorporate all the things that you could do. So having other people kind of share that, their perspective, like, you could add this to that, and it could help in achieving your goal. And then also just as somebody who needs accountability, just to really rely on those people that you set as the people who keep you accountable. Just lean on them maybe more often than I think you had mentioned, like once a month you talk to yours. Somebody like me, I might need like once a week. That's all I got.
Awesome. Sounds like there were some good breakouts. Okay, so we're going to backtrack a little bit to more agile, so you can learn a little bit more about what it is and how you can use it, and how I used it specifically when I graduated Prime back in, that was about a year ago. So this how this has evolved, and how applying Scrum has continuously improved that process, right? So Kanban is very visual oriented, right? If there was UXers in here, they would be cheering, right? So you can see here, this is even some whiteboards from Prime, from my cohort when we were doing our group project, right? Looking at these things, it was much easier, instead of verbally talking it out, or even writing it down on, or typing it in, right? Something about drawing and being able to erase mistakes and edit, right? Which is great, whether that's a pen and paper, pencil and paper, or whiteboards, right? So I thought I needed a whiteboard, right? I wanted to use what I learned at Prime and do it daily in my life to get a job, right? To make more money, to get in shape. To one goal I had was I was an awful cook. You give me ramen noodles and I will burn them. Okay, I couldn't cut up a pineapple, right? So I messaged, what I did is I did a small experiment, and I messaged, I think, 100. I did that, I broke it down, right? I said, one of my goals is I want to have a whiteboard by the end of the month, right? That's a smaller goal. But when I did the backlog, what can I do to pay the least amount possible and make it super easy for me and get the nicest whiteboard I can? So I messaged 100 people between Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace. And I thought, you know, most of these are going for $500 used on these various marketplaces. So I thought I'd really cut them by the knees and offer 20 bucks, right? And then I could use, let's say that was the first 50, and I could start to feel where people were comfortable and eventually negotiate and get the cheapest price I could. So I would message and I'd say, hey, you're willing to sell it for $20. I could come by and pick it up today, right? Setting that timeline for them of, oh my gosh, I could have this out of my living room today. I'm driving past you in about an hour, more urgency, and I can swing by, making it easier for you. Let me know, thanks. Too low an offer. And that was about 50 of the responses, right? Well, and then I tried sending, maybe if I sent a picture of the money, they could smell it. They could smell it through their phone. So I'd send a picture of a $20 bill that I always have in my gallery because I just reuse it. Hey, I'm downtown Minneapolis right now, and I have a $20 bill with me that I'd be willing to swing by it and pick it up for you today. You don't have to worry about me not paying you. I've got it right here, see? And then that didn't work, so I replied the next day, hey, how about today? Until one day I said, I'll come pick this up today for $20. Let me know if you're willing for me to buy it for that. I'm driving past you in about an hour and I can swing by. Let me know, thanks. Becky responded, we are in Mexico, and since it's Saturday, no one is at the office. We'll be back on Tuesday. We'll take $20. Oh, but since we're in Mexico, can we deliver it to you? I said, sounds great. What ended up happening is I got a $500 beautiful whiteboard with, I'll show you a picture of it, cork boards and the whole 9 yards for $20 and free delivery. And this thing is like 200 pounds. Yeah.
Can you send me that picture of the $20 bill?
Sure. You're just trying to get the groundwork taken care of. I like that.
Take us one picture.
There you go. But then you're going to show up and they're going to say, this isn't the same $20 bill. Yeah. So this is the whiteboard I bought. It has mahogany doors that close. There's magnets on it, so that way if I have, intimate personal stuff. When I have company over, I can close it and it looks like a piece of furniture, right? It's also great for Pictionary, so it's great for board game night. I also got free markers, a free eraser, and about a $15 little spray thing with it. So already, just with those accessories, it paid for itself, right? Then I thought, okay, how can I improve this? I started out just brainstorming and using my whiteboard as my Kanban board, and I thought, I'm going to use this corkboard space. So I bought a bunch of pins, and this is how they came in the mail when I opened the box. And I thought, okay, these red lines are showing me what I want to do today, but how am I going to realize what's in progress, right? So then I created this little magnet thing, because it was also magnetic. And then I thought, I'm going to cut up little different color-coded note cards, and I can use that just like you guys were today with your sticky notes. And this is what it turned into. I had my backlog, my to-do, my in progress, I had a complete, and eventually I added a follow-up, and then I added a limbo, which means like I was waiting for somebody else to get back to me, right? And as this evolved, I started adding lines so it was visually I could see it quicker. I added rocks, which is a term from this book, because not only can you use Kanban and Scrum, but you can use other things for inspiration. So rocks are a concept from this book called traction. This is what a lot of mid-sized companies between 1 and 100 million use to manage their businesses. They use a program called EOS, which is Entrepreneur Operating System. So when I read this book, I thought that's a great idea. Not only am I going to have annual goals, I'll break those up into quarterly rocks, and then those rocks spur the different day-to-day stuff, right? So I always had that constant reminder of what I was striving towards. Oh, and then I also outlined the ones that were repeating in black, right? Daily stand-up was something I recycled every week, right? So that was outlined in black. So I'm going to run through here what I learned in the first month of practicing this after Prime. In week 1, I learned I need to practice daily stand-ups or the momentum loses, right? I need to drink more water. I needed to use my limbo column more often, and I needed to get stressful tasks done first. And that nips procrastination right in the bud, right? Week 2, I learned when you need a day off, I needed to take it. Because burnout is a real thing, imposter syndrome is a real thing, and how you avoid that is by taking mental health, right, seriously, and you have to think about I think I'll get that later, but you have to make sure you're mentally, physically, emotionally healthy, otherwise everything that you're striving towards is worthless. If you're in the hospital all day, what's the point? I needed to plan family and fun in advance to ensure that I had balance. If I just did this super aggressively, I had, oh my gosh, I have all these to-dos on my corkboard, and I've got all these things in Trello, and I just don't have room to breathe. So I would actually use my calendar and put in, okay, I'm going to spend some time with family, I'm going to spend some time with friends, and I need to protect that time slot. When I was sprint planning, look at the schedule for open days to get tasks done. So actually put them on your calendar. Plan when you are going to do those. Pick 1 or 2 per day, and don't try to tackle the whole list in a day. That is a concept from this book, which is something I also revised. This is called Your One Thing by Gary Keller. He is the most successful real estate agent ever. And he talks about if you do what we did with the groundwork and reverse engineer, what is one thing that you can do today, one thing this week, one thing this year to get where you want to go. But then you have to customize it for yourself. Somebody said that. I think it was you, right? You said you needed to customize it to see your accountability partner weekly, right? So instead of one thing for me, I'm like, nah, I'm going to double it too. Week 3 and 4, sometimes your week will be too full of other stuff that you'll need to settle for keeping the email sharks at bay, right? So you need to be agile in your scheduling as well, in your mentality. Flexible. Use your calendar to plan activities. You know how long they'll take. Do this every Monday and leave Friday open for catching up. So every Monday I'll go through my calendar and I plan out my week. So that way, not only do I visually see these tasks, but I plan when am I going to get these done, right? And I like to leave Friday open because life happens and you won't get everything done that you were planning to. So I left Friday always open so I could get the leftovers done that I didn't get done Monday through Thursday. You'll learn that you can't tackle as much as you thought you could alone. What can you delegate? What can you automate? What can you eliminate, right? And in later weeks I learned, dedicate a day to yourself before you start this process to learn what relaxes you. If you already know, great, you're ahead of the curve. If you don't, try to learn what relaxes you. I didn't know what relaxed me because I had never actually tried to relax before, right? Especially coming out of Prime when you're doing 80-hour weeks of learning software. It's really hard to like switch that toggle again and say, oh my gosh, I think I have time to breathe right now, right? For me, I found out that StarCraft 2 is what relaxed me. So, but it still kept my brain humming, but it wasn't work, right? Have a CEO day. This is something that I learned from Evan Carmichael, which is in another slide here, which is a day that I have. For me, I do it weekly because I own a business. For you guys, it might be monthly, right? And look at the big picture goals. Do a check-in with yourself. How am I doing on these goals? And that's when I take care of things like taxes, hiring people, starting new initiatives, stuff like that. Things that aren't what I would say daily things, right? And then always give yourself 24 hours to make important decisions. I had an offer right after Prime for a good chunk of money, and I almost said yes right on the phone call. And if I would have done that, the next morning I had an offer for even more money, but if I had already accepted the last one the night before, I wouldn't have been able to consider that next one, right? So that's a really aggressive example, but give yourself 24 hours, let it marinate, right? Make that decision, make sure it's the right decision. So this is what it looked like when it was all done. And here's some things that I accomplished in the last 18 months using this methodology. I did not know how to cook, nor was I, whenever I tried, it was like, I could make cereal when I was at Prime, right? But I learned how to cook, and how I did that is I did this subscription through Blue Apron, I think, or something like that, where they give you they buy the ingredients for you. I don't like shopping. They have the recipe for you. I don't like to improvise. And they made it super simple, so that's how I did that, and that's how I learned to cook, and now I don't need those step-by-step things anymore because I've been doing it for 18 months, right? And I made awesome meals for the first time in my life. I wanted to learn parkour. How did I do that? I thought, if I financially commit myself to a membership, so what I did is for the first 6 months, I tried out like a dozen different gyms, and after that, I made a decision which one I like best, bought a membership, and I'm like doing backflips and stuff. It's awesome. Never rode on a horse before. I did that last year, and that's Tilly right there. She was the oldest horse at the entire ranch. She was great. And then Evan Carmichael, he is a massively successful YouTuber. He actually spoke here at Prime, I think about a year ago, and I networked with him, and I was networking with other business owners, and I was able to host these dinners and build my business that way. And I wouldn't have been able to do that had I not scheduled my life the way that we talked about today. I went skiing in the Rocky Mountains, which was a total blast with some friends. Okay, so that is the presentation. You can connect with me on any social media. YouTube isn't that URL, but the rest of it, I'm at D Polipnick. OnlineGrowthSystems.com is my company. That's it. Thank you, everybody.